Hi, and welcome to Complete and Cast, the official podcast for Complete and Box video games. Today, in episode 67, we're hitting you with another game review. This is number 23. How do you feel about that, Parker?
Woo!
23 games we've played.
Amazing. I've only ever played 23 games.
And just these 23. I've only played the out of the 23 games I've ever played, I played Darksiders 1 through 3 for some reason. And today,
I played Resident Evil 6.
Yeah. And speaking of that, today, for some reason, we played the game Agony for PS4. I think it came out in 2018. I want to say a couple. This review is not going to be very long, so I want to say a couple things about it, beforehand.
Oh, I want to say a couple things too.
So first of all, when this game first came out, it was like really, really hated, like just awful reviews. And a lot of the reasons I saw listed were like because of its essentially because of its graphic nature, which
or
it is,
and subject matter.
And we'll go into that when it comes to the story and all that kind of stuff. So I thought, okay, I understand someone having problems with that. Like I get that, but like I hope that's not the reason this game would be like hated. And then it got traded into the store, and I was like, I gotta try this out. And for no particular reason whatsoever, I went through all 22 of our previous reviews and found the game that had the lowest scores, which I knew already, which was Resident Evil 6, which is one of the first game reviews we ever did. I gave it a 2.25, and Parker gave it a 2.42. And for no reason whatsoever, I'm going to lay that out as the scoring right now as our lowest one. And we'll see how this game review goes. So Agony is
oh no, you just said it. Agony is Agony.
I played this probably about a year ago, and the funny thing is, I'm definitely one of the first people because like I don't want to make it seem like I'm busy all the time or whatever. Right. But like I'm at a point in life where if something's very annoying and I don't have to do it, and it's not like, involving like something that I have to do, like okay, you have to mow, okay, you have to get your oil changed, whatever. Yeah. I just won't do it. Yep. And somehow I went through all of Agony like relatively quickly, like within a week or two or whatever. Right. It's not a particularly long game,
it's a pretty short game.
But obviously,
yeah.
And Parker tried, like I gave it to him,
Spencer played it a year ago. He immediately, after he finished, gave it to me. I started playing it a year ago, and we're now doing the review because I recently finished it. And that's not to say it took that long, but it took that long for me to build up the energy.
I just want to say that before we do anything, that's amazing, because Parker's always the one to finish something first or plow through it. He sleeps less than me. Like I sleep like a freaking motorboat. Like I sleep like 8, 9, 10 hours a day. So already I'm like, well,
there's less hours in the day. I'm just
already I just like I cannot sleep less than 7 hours, or I'm like I can't function.
I cannot tell you how many times in the past year I've looked over at the shelf and its Agony is on the top, and I go, no, not today, not today, Satan,
not today. Literally, not today,
Satan.
But like I like if you look at the longest shots in the world, for me to finish this technically faster, even though I had the game first, but technically much faster is like a super long shot. I ain't gonna lie, they had us in the first half, and then I finished, and then I finished Agony, and I actually did. I finished the game 100%. Agony is Agony. And unfortunately, as we found out, it's Agony not because of the subject matter, but because of the game's Agony.
The game.
Now, it's been a while since I played the game, and in general, when it's been a while since I played, Parker will kind of start talking about the story, and then I'll like remember it. Like we just did Arkham Knight, and it's been a very long time since I played Arkham Knight. But as you said, I was like, oh yeah. And I'm sure if I played it again, there would be other parts where I'm like, okay, because in a 45-minute review, you can't do everything. Yeah. I do not remember a single thing about this game in terms of story, with the exception of you are in hell.
Right.
That's literally all I remember.
That's the easy thing to remember because it's really it's very obvious.
It's very obvious. Yeah. So here's we've never done this before, but we're just gonna read the plot synopsis off of Wikipedia. I have not read this. Right. And we're gonna see how much we remember based off of it, and then grade it based off of that, because I mean,
Because where Spencer's coming from is he doesn't remember a lot of it. Where I'm coming from, that I actually played it, is I didn't understand what was going on most of the time. I could understand the language everybody was speaking. They were all speaking English. There were subtitles. Yet somehow I was like, what is happening? And I had to keep stopping and just going, what is happening? So
okay, here we go.
Through this,
this is just off of Wikipedia.
Here we go. The story follows a lost soul trapped in hell without any memory of his former life. I'm with you already, 100%.
I remember that. Okay.
Absolutely. Next sentence, already you lost me. From what is revealed of the protagonist's backstory, he was a king of an ancient land who made a Faustian bargain with the Red Goddess. In story, he is referred to as both Nimrod by the goddess and Amraphael by other condemned souls, some of whom still have their memories, blaming the protagonist for them being damned to hell because of the acts he committed while alive.
Okay, so one thing, I'm going to stop you there and say, I do remember people yelling at you.
Yes, I do remember that.
I do remember that, but it wasn't.
I don't know why they were
it wasn't
yelling
specific.
At me.
Yes, it wasn't specific.
I didn't know I was a king that had them killed.
No, because they would say like it's your fault, and I was like,
right.
What's my fault?
Yes, right. As the protagonist wanders through the wastelands of hell, he discovers a possibility of escaping through the aid of the Red Goddess. Determined, he travels to the Red Goddess's lair to learn how he can be set free. So I kind of get that. I do remember the Red Goddess, and I do remember trying to get to her.
I vaguely remember that.
If the player obeys the Red Goddess's commands, they will ultimately venture to the lowest depths of hell, provoking a creature known only as the Beast. Sufficiently wearing down the Beast, the protagonist is able to possess it, using its power to break the seals binding it to the lower depths.
But that's literally the last 5 minutes of the game.
That's the last 5 minutes of the game.
Okay.
Satisfied, the Red Goddess reveals herself as the Whore of Babylon and vows to use the Beast to begin the apocalypse. The protagonist is returned to the living world per his deal, only to be killed by the Beast moments later as the Red Goddess begins her conquest of Earth, leaving the player's soul to return to hell.
You know what that reminds me of? That ending, another game we reviewed, Call of Cthulhu, where like
Yes.
you do all this, and now Cthulhu, you kind of like, I guess both these games you could see it happening.
Yeah, you kind
but
of
like it's like you do all this stuff, and then it's like, by the way, here's Cthulhu.
Oh yeah, by the way,
so
you're
it's
dead.
like the same thing with this.
You survive, but then the world is destroyed. The one thing in the middle that they do leave out that I'll mention is in order to release the Beast, the Red Goddess also has to get you to kill other kind of high up people in hell, and obviously one of them is literally the devil, and another one I think is Lucifer or something like that. So you're basically taking down like some of the big names that you know from like either if you ever went to Bible school as a kid or whatever, or you're just familiar with the Bible. Like you kind of have these names floating around in your head, or from other games like Devil May Cry or whatever. You kind of have all these names in your head, and there's like the devil and like Beelzebub and Satan and all these things, and you have to take each one of them down until you get to the Beast. So that's the only thing they left out there that I do happen to remember. But I will say the majority of that, I am like, I had no idea you were a king.
So here's my question: a Faustian deal is like a monkey paw thing, right? Where it's like,
yes, it's like you're making a deal with the devil, where it's like you are like gonna be at the losing end in the end. Even if you looks like you're in a good thing, it's probably bad.
So if you were like, it's like if you were like, I wish I was thinner, and then they just cut you in half,
right?
And they're like, there you go, you're thinner.
It also has to do with you trading your soul for this.
Okay.
So even while you might get an actual good thing in the moment, you might get all the wealth in the world, because you traded your soul away, you live like a half-life, and then when you die, you're like condemned to hell. So it's like, well, I hope you enjoyed the short moments of having wealth, because now you are condemned to an eternity in hell.
So I guess the ironic thing they're going for with this story is he makes that deal on Earth,
yes,
and then he makes that deal in hell,
yes,
right? So
very
like,
true.
He doesn't like. I guess not that you could learn. I mean, I'm sure.
No, right.
I'm sure if you could put like yourself in a situation like this on Earth, where it's like you mess up, but then it's like, hey, if you do this almost exact same thing, I'll get you out of it. And it's like,
right.
I'm sure if people were pushed to the limit, they would probably think the same thing.
Absolutely.
But I will say that. Okay, let me start back to the very beginning. Do I have to be a biblical scholar to understand this game? Is my question, because I want so bad to like this game. I love Dante's Inferno. Right. I love the general idea. I love the iconography
and all the stuff.
With and when I say love, of course, I mean it's very interesting.
I mean, it's why we love Darksiders. The first one was one of our higher rated games.
Yeah,
and it's all that same stuff. It's heaven and hell and all the stuff that goes along with it.
It's just very cool. It's very cool. Even 500 years ago with Dante's Inferno, just kind of painting the picture where you're like, wow.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's just, it's in a weird way, it's world building. And I want so bad to love it because I love that kind of stuff. And I don't, it's a first person game. Yeah. It's not a shooter. I don't know what you would call it. It's a first person game. And obviously in those kind of games, for the most part, you don't have as much, I guess, personality on the main character, for the most part, as third-person games. Yes, okay, in Half-Life, Gordon Freeman, over the course of time, developed a quote-unquote personality, but that was because of fans almost giving it to him.
Exactly.
In the game itself, he's
nothing.
He's nothing. He's a vestibule for you. That's it. That's all he is, right?
Exactly.
So almost all first-person shooters, it would have to take a game like a Serious Sam, which I think is a first-person shooter, and then Duke Nukem. Right. Where but then if you're a first-person main character, you have to kind of be over the top because you can't see what they're doing. You can't see them all the time. So Duke has to just be like, if he wasn't, you would forget about him. So you have to make it very over the top. Now, this character, I don't think ever talks.
Nope.
Okay, so it's a silent first-person character that nothing's explained about. And I again, there's things in here that I like. It's like I could pick little. It's like someone made me a pot of rice, right? So, if I made a pot of rice and a couple of them were burned, you would just pick the burned ones out. Yeah. But it's like you presented me a pot of rice and 98% of it's burned. And I'm picking the good ones out and I'm like, okay. And that happens in life. You have a game like even Arkham Knight. It's it's great, except for this one piece of rice. I'll pull it out. Yep. But this one's it's all bad except for this one.
Except there's a couple of moments in here that are okay.
I love the idea of you playing a first-person nameless character in hell because that's the whole point of a hell situation is you are nameless. You don't matter. You're just a soul that's there. And that's really cool.
And also nearly powerless. This is not a game where it's you have any abilities. You are limping along.
And I like games like that for the most part. I do. We
played Outlast. There was some.
I played Clock Tower. I played Nightcry. I play a lot of games like that.
Right.
And there's a lot of things that I'm like, oh man, if you just told me, if you just came to me and you're like, it's a game in hell, you're a nameless character that messed up somehow, now you have to get out of it, and also you don't have very many powers, and pretty much everyone's out to get you, I'd be like, sign me up. It's just, whatever. Yeah. It sounds awesome. And it's just but at the same time, almost it's a very specific dance you have to do here. And you have to give a little bit of information. You can't give absolutely nothing.
Right.
You have to go about it with finesse with something like this. Yeah. Whereas with the Duke Nukem, you don't have to go out with finesse. It's Duke Nukem likes babes and likes blowing stuff up, and there's no finesse. But with this, it's you're a nameless thing in hell that wants to get out. It's and we purposely don't want to give much of the story. It's that's fine, but you really have to go about it with finesse and give us a little to be okay, why am I doing this?
Absolutely.
I felt almost all the game I was I would just go and be why am I doing this?
Yes, absolutely.
And then I would come to a room and there'd be the character and I guess you'd kill him, whatever main characters.
And then
I'd be
the Red
why,
Goddess start telling you stuff.
I'd be why am I doing this? The whole way.
I don't know what my motivation is, but when I do it, the Red Goddess goes, good, now, next thing, and you're oh, okay, I guess I won.
And that's the worst part for me, because it's something I want so desperately to like. It's not you're just this reminds me of Life is Strange Before the Storm. It's I desperately want to like this game, and then it's just...
You like the world already. You like hell, Bible iconography used in an interesting way in a video game. You already are on board, and then it's they're just not doing it. And it had potential. I agree it had potential, but it was so hard to deliver. It just was rough. I will say that there's a lot of things to pick up and read, and some of them I picked up because I couldn't stand to do all of it. And I will say that the ones I picked up did start to try to reveal something, and I'm sure if you picked everyone up and read everyone, you would have an idea of all this extra story. But like, that's just awful.
That's another fine line that I want to go into. Resident Evil 2, as an example, you get the story,
right,
and you know Chief Irons sucks. But then if you find the Secretary's diary,
yep,
you know, oh my god, he really sucks.
Yep.
And something like that, or a Silent Hill, does it great because, like, the story, although it can be a little, you know, a little minimal and a little confusing, especially on the Silent Hill, generally you get it for the most part.
Right.
Whereas my one big thing that I disliked about Doom 2016, if you remember, is I did not find those things.
Exactly.
So I was like, what am I was like, the gameplay's great, but I was like, what am I doing?
Right.
And in that one, you had to, like, literally find all
If you read them all, you would be like, oh, wow, this is a cool story.
But I didn't. I did not find them.
Yep,
so I did not know anything about the story.
Yep.
And again, it's one of those finesse kind of things where it's like, if you have to do it that way, make it very obvious.
Right.
Make it like...
just in your path.
Just
constantly.
Right in the path. Like,
Absolutely.
you walk into a room and it's like clearly on an altar right in the middle.
Or six things are shining and
it
all you
wasn't.
do is walk
I'm
around.
pretty sure because I don't remember that.
They were very hard to find.
And it's just one of those, like I said, there's a finesse to it where it's like, okay, if it's just going to be like, you know, okay, Resident Evil 1. Here's the best example I can think of. The guard's diary. The Watchman's diary.
Excellent.
The itchy tasty one. It's so excellent, but if you miss it, you're not like, I don't understand what happened to the people in this in this place, right? But you find it and it adds
so
to it.
Extra.
It's to the side, and although in that it's pretty obvious because it's like in a room, but like it's a room you don't have to go into.
Yeah,
but it adds to it. But you could play the game and I could be like, do you find the Watchman's diary? You'd be like, no. I'd be like, dude, look it up.
Yeah.
And you'd be like, whoa, but you wouldn't be like, but oh man, I didn't understand that zombies broke out until I read that, right?
Exactly.
It's that finesse, and that's the kind of thing that this game has just literally none of. One of the things I hate is either that or when you have to go to, and I probably mentioned this before in game reviews, is when you have to go to an external device to find it. Yeah. My best example, when I worked at another game place, Dead Space 2 came out. And I really enjoyed the game, but, like, I did not understand the story.
Right.
And I talked to my one friend who was, like, a big Dead Space guy, and he was like, oh, well, you have to read the book.
There's a novel.
And it's like, no, I don't have to.
Yeah.
And he was like, no, to really get it, you have to read the book. It's like, no, there's a finesse to it. Like, you can have a book, and that's great.
Right. And it can add to it and tell extra
But it's not like, to get the main things of Isaac in Dead Space 2, I shouldn't have to read a damn book. Like, there's just a finesse to it. There's no other way of putting it. And I'll always remember that, where it's like, oh, you gotta read the book. And then there's this, like, animated series or whatever. It's like, no, that should be a thing where it's like, I really enjoyed Dead Space. What else is out there?
Right.
Oh, this and this. But it's like,
absolutely.
wow, I really enjoyed Dead Space. I wish I knew the story. Oh, you gotta read the book, bud. It's like, no,
that's not a thing.
It's before Disney Star Wars, the extended universe was amazing for that, because you never would have had to read that. But the second you would read one of the side things, and you're like, what's that guy's name in Shadow's Empire? Dash Rendar. You're like, whoa,
dude,
Dash Rendar! You know what I mean?
Darth Revan. You're like, oh my god, this guy rules.
But, like, you didn't have to do it to understand Star Wars. But with this, again, with Agony, they don't explain anything. Maybe they do in these little things you find, but, like, everything in this game is very hard to see and not very obvious.
Oh, that is the...
okay, and we'll talk about that in gameplay. Geez. So, do you have anything else to add for story before we finish off? Okay, so, once again, I don't think I explained this. Let's do it right now, actually. Yep. So, we base in 6 different categories: story, gameplay, graphics / atmosphere, sound, fun factor, and replayability. We grade it from 0 to 10 with a 0.25 increment scale because we can. 0 is unattainably bad. 10 is unattainably good. Generally, 2 is the lowest we've really ever given anything overall, and about 8.3 for a total score is the highest we've ever given on anything. So, with that being said, I want to give this story a 0, but because it has... I'm going to give it 1 point because it has the irony of him making both decisions.
Yeah, I like that.
And I want.
Although I will say that
we had to look it up. I get it.
Right.
I get it. I would give it 2 points if it.
If you had gotten it while you were playing.
And I want to give it 1 point for them at least trying the silent protagonist that like truly shows that they're like just they don't matter.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna give it a 2 because of those two reasons.
Right. So actually, I'm there with you. I'm gonna give it a 2 only because I really, really like you enjoy the setting.
Oh, thank you.
The setting.
I really
like you. Enjoy the setting and iconography associated with like demons and hell, and the hierarchy of hell, and you're moving through different regions of hell, and different people are being tortured in different ways, and you encounter all these different like beasts and entities and stuff. And so like, as much as I hated what I was looking at, like I have to admit that it was at least like the only thing that let me continue. Like if it didn't have that, I probably wouldn't have finished this and been like, Spencer, you're gonna have to do this review on your own. But like there was just enough where I was like, I gotta just see this through, blah blah blah. But yeah, so that's, and just a spoiler alert, that might be my highest score. But
do you know what the hierarchy and the iconography kind of reminds me of? Would be either like a feudal Japan, where like if you're reading Wikipedia about feudal Japan, it's like, okay, well this guy ruled, but then this crazier guy ruled for like 100 years, but then they were knocked off, and this crazier guy ruled for it's like the same thing, and it's like or medieval Europe where you're like I don't know, Alexander the Great must have been pretty cool or whatever. It's like, but then this guy showed up, and it's like.
You're like, then Hannibal came along with his elephants. You're like, what the heck?
Yeah, it's just it's what I've wanted to live back in that time. No. But is it fun to like read about and be like, oh cool, war elephants, Trojan horse, blah blah blah. Anyway, so the gameplay is awful. It's the main thing from what I understand, from what I remember, and I continue on after this is you're essentially nothing but a soul,
right?
And you can inhibit.
Eventually, you can start unlocking the ability to possess other things that you encounter in hell, such as other demons who actually are powerful and actually can do things. But
at first, for at least the first half of the game, all you can do is join in on like other essentially tattered souls.
Right, and that's only like if you die. So like, if you die, you can find another soul to inhabit to then continue on. Basically, that's it. So like that's for a lot of the beginning, and then eventually you start unlocking the ability to inhabit like demons and other entities, but only for a limited amount of time. And
which is understandable.
Yeah, whatever. So, but I will say, even when you're controlling the most powerful demon in hell or whatever, it controls like a bus. It is so
I remember the final part where you have
to do a platforming section at the end.
I probably did it 15 times, and you're this like
so bad
40, 80, 100 foot tall demon, and like it really is like it reminds me of like remember the PS1 days where you wanted to turn, you would have to stop, like a Bubsy 3D. You'd have to stop,
100%.
Turn to the right, walk forward. It's like literally like that in like 2018.
And then imagine having to do like a platformer just like Bubsy 3D, like where you're just like, why am I not jumping? Like, and then you'll finally get it, and you don't feel the satisfaction of like having figured out how the controls work. It's just, oh, I got it, and you're just like, good lord.
So the first, like I said, it's a first-person game. Most of it is pretty much a mixture of platforming and like hiding.
Yeah.
And the hiding parts are just like really boring. Like it's just
so
like
awful.
you go like room to room, and like good games will like even like a Metal Gear Solid or whatever will have like parts of hiding and then parts of doing something else and then parts of hiding and doing something else, whatever. This one, like, I just felt it was just like all hiding, especially for the first half of the game. And
or even just running. Like a lot of times, there's just moments where the demon goes, there you are, and you have to just run away from them. And those are just like so tedious because you are so slow, you are so like unbearably slow, and the demons seem to be as like so fast, and you're just like trying to get away from them. And then you like, all you have to do is make one wrong move, and then they swipe you, and you're dead. And then you have to start the whole part over, and it's just like,
And the puzzles are pretty confusing from what I remember, and
they are so bad.
And everything's not obvious.
No.
Now, again, there's a finesse. Now, in a Silent Hill game, everything's dark, but the things you can interact with are light because, like, that's one of the things I mention on the Let's Plays a lot. I'm like, all right, take your favorite game. and change one thing about it and make it unplayable. And so take Silent Hill 2, for example, which is a very
and you can't find the items. They don't shine.
Atmospheric game. Yeah, if Silent Hill 2 was the same game but didn't have the items light up, you couldn't play it.
Unplayable.
It would be unplayable.
Absolutely.
You would have to just literally be like,
click,
what am
click,
I doing?
click,
yeah,
click,
all the
everywhere.
time. Or like look up a walkthrough for everything.
Yep, absolutely.
And, this in general is...
is that. Like, the main puzzle that you have in most areas is you will have to find a bunch of beating hearts, and you put those hearts onto a scale. And when you put enough hearts on both sides of a scale, it will unlock a new part of the map or something. That's like the main puzzle that will be around. But the hearts are literally dark red or black. And everything in this game is
dark
red or
black.
on fire or black or brown. It is so monochromatic. The demons are all disgusting, matted hair.
We'll get into that in the
brown.
graphics. We'll get into that
It's
in
just
graphics.
so everything just so as far as like gameplay is concerned, you cannot find what you're supposed to do. And one thing I'll add to gameplay, which seems like they knew, they must have gotten to some point in the development of this game and went, this is nearly unplayable. What can we do? And they created this thing, which this tells you all you need to know about what the developers of this game realized they were making. There is a button. You press R3, the analog stick. You press that in, and a glowing light will come out of your hand and will fly and leave a trail in the direction you're supposed to go. And you can click that non-stop.
I did that all the time.
There is basically a setting in the settings that you can make that infinite. Normally, you're supposed to collect like these bit pieces.
I know I did that all the time.
And then you can use some of it, and then it'll run out, and then you got to collect more, blah, blah, blah. You can turn a setting off, or it turns itself off at a certain point that lets you do that infinitely. So now imagine it's basically not to this extent, but it's like no clipping in like Doom. You just spend most of the last half of the game just clicking R3 and following the line and not even looking around.
Well, it's because everything is so, and again, this a little goes into graphics, but it is more gameplay. Everything looks so the same that you don't, a lot of times you go into a place, you'd be like, did I enter here?
Yeah, you have no idea.
I specifically remember an area where it was like kind of like a big circular tube or whatever. This is probably pretty early in the game.
Yeah.
And like you just, of course you have to keep going up, but even then it's like very confusing. I remember
and the way you go up is like some of the things you walk into a wall and you'll start walking on a different you'll walk up the wall. But because there's a certain thing you can do that. And you have to follow these paths that are barely seeable and you're just like, I don't know what I'm doing.
Take it from me, I play a lot of games where you have very little abilities.
Yes.
And there is, once again, a finesse to it.
Absolutely.
Some games do it pretty well and give you, like, different ways to get around it, like a clock tower. You have no powers, but Scissor Man is stupid.
Yes.
Like, if Scissor Man was super freaking smart with super amazing AI, it would be awful. There you go. There's the thing to make clock tower impossible. If he's always on your butt every second, there you go. And... yeah, I lost my train of thought on this, but
no, you were in that tube and you were trying to get up and you just like can't go up. Like you're just like, where do I go? And you keep going. Did I already see this part? Have I already been in this room? And you just keep saying that to yourself the whole game.
Oh, right. So there's a finesse to games where you don't have abilities.
Right.
We did a game, Outlast 1, where I did not like how they did that because it was just like too much all the time, Right. And this is another thing, again, where it's like, okay, if you're going to make a game where it's all about hiding and whatever, it's like at least break up the monotony once in a while. Not a 10-second cutscene where someone just talks to you.
Right,
Dude, I
that's
remember
not breaking
the part that probably was, now that I'm remembering, the part that was probably the hardest is very early on in the game. Very early on. Yep. You're in like a cell or something like that, and it took me forever. I forget what you had to do specifically.
There's some parts where you have to burn.
You had to like meet someone or something like that, and I could not find them. And I was reading a guide, and I was like, how can I not find what I need to do 5 minutes in this stupid game? And it's just like that's how it was most of the time, where it's just like you're like, It's like, go talk to Julazula.
Yeah.
And you're like, who? You know, where?
Right.
And then you would, like, find them that they would be, like, almost blended into the wall because they're, like, a dying soul or whatever. And you're like, this is the person I was looking... Yeah. It's just so awful. So, here's my score for gameplay.
There's no satisfaction when you finally complete a part.
Yeah.
You're just like, finally, and then you never want to think about it again.
Here's how I'm looking for gameplay. I'm going to start at a 0. It did not crash on me one time, which I'm going to give it a 1. And I did not find a way for it to, like, have any major glitches where, like, I had to restart the game or reinstall it, or, like, there was no point where I had to literally, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, where I literally had to, like, be like, I have to start my file over because I got to a place...
It's not unplayable.
Like it quick saved me in an area where I would instantly die kind of thing.
Right.
So I'm going to give that a 0.5 point, and I'm going to give it a 1.5. That is the bare minimum. I will, at one point, give a 0 if it's something that literally the game, like, crashes multiple times.
Right.
But this game never crashed on me.
Yeah, that's
that
fair.
I remember.
That's fair.
So.
I'm going to go 1. That's all I can do. I cannot give more because
highest
honestly,
I can go is 1, brother.
The reason I'm even giving it a 1, to be fair, right? That's the absolute reason, is for the first 10 minutes of the game, I was pulled in and I was like looking for secret rooms, because I will tell you,
it starts you out kind of decent, doesn't it? Where you're
and
like,
I
what
will
am I
tell
doing
you,
here?
there are. If I told you how many secrets were in this game, you would laugh for the rest of eternity. It's astronomical, the number of secrets that are in this game.
How are you ever supposed to find? I know there's secrets, but how are you ever supposed to find them?
And I found a bunch in the first area, and I played the first area for just the first area before I got to the gates of hell, or even. And I ended up finding 5 secrets outside the gates of hell before the game starts in earnest. And I was like, whoa, there's a lot of secrets here. And I'm like, this is kind of cool. Maybe this will be fun. And there was a lot of different things to try to unlock somehow. And that, once the gameplay started and I realized what I was playing, that was absolutely the last thing on my mind.
Yeah.
And every time you complete a chapter, it tells you how many secrets out of how many secrets you got. And it was always 0 of 40 or something.
Oh,
and you're
God.
like, are you kidding me? Are you really serious right now? It was out of control. So that's the only reason I give it a 1, is because that very first 20 minutes, half hour or so, I was hooked gameplay-wise. I was okay with the controls. But as soon as I had to get chased by a demon, I was like, and we're done. That's it. We're done.
All right. So moving on to graphics / atmosphere. Like I said, it's the whole visual thing.
No.
Now I'm going to start with one of the very few general positives, which is that I can't knock the atmosphere that much because it is, as we mentioned before, something I generally like in media of any type. So it sets that up, and there is the general feeling of like a dread or a suffering or whatever,
For
and
sure.
just anger,
Yep.
all those negatives. So obviously that, some of that is actually how you will feel, but they do have that general where there's tortured souls yelling in the background and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I have to give it at least a little bit for that. It's at least had that going for it, but the graphics are really, really, really bad. And
it's obviously and this is not a huge release.
It's not a huge release, but it's
we
big
should
enough.
say that out
It's
the
big
gate.
enough to get
Right.
people
a physical PS4
PS4 release,
which
right?
Is big.
Which
That's tough.
and okay, there's some physical PS4 releases that are really small, but this is a game that I've seen at the store maybe 4 or 5 times.
Right.
Whereas there's a lot of these really small releases for these random point and click games that I have that I've seen it once and that's it, and we'll never see it again, kind of thing.
Exactly.
So it's big enough for that, and it's big enough that I knew the name when it came in. It's not Dear Esther,
Right.
I own that game for PS4, and I'm certain that you can't. It's probably not expensive, of course,
Right,
but it's
right.
one of those things that just
You just
why
don't
would they
yeah.
press that many?
Yeah, absolutely.
So it looks bad, But the big thing that hurts it is that everything is so the same looking. Everything's so monochromatic.
Right.
And if you can look at Dante's Inferno for the Xbox 360 or PS3 as a good example of a hell-based game you can do where it doesn't like look that the same. Like every area is like kind of unique.
Yes.
You know, there's like this area is the ice area and this area is the whatever area. And this is just like everything was the same. There were some places where you were in smaller areas and there were some places you were in bigger areas, but it's all just fire and brimstone and
everything like
black,
made of flesh,
black and red and flesh,
not,
and that's all
and
it was.
just,
Sometimes you got to a bigger area that was fire and brimstone and made of flesh and all that stuff.
Dripping blood on fire. There's like a lake of blood. It's just like, you know, it's just not like executed well. Like what Spencer's saying, like if they just made it where like one area was all the lakes of blood and one area was all the like bone like structures or whatever. But they just mix everything throughout the whole game, so it's all just one thing.
That's a way you could make it better if, like, you enter one place and it's like every single thing in this 10-minute area is made of bones.
Right.
It's just like the bones.
There's no blood. There's no nothing.
You walk into a house and it's just bones and you know the stuff related to that. That would be pretty cool.
Right.
Or if you have to like go under the lake of blood or whatever, like, that would be cool. But just everything's the same and everything like you go to a new
There's
room.
one area that is ice. And you're in it for like maybe 10 minutes.
Okay.
But like it's basically just like all they did was take blood and flesh color and change it white for one part of the game. It's because it's like it's ice, but it's barely anything. Like there's no gameplay variation. There's no nothing. It just looks different for maybe because by this point in the game, if you are feeling the way we are, you are just mashing that hint button and running along the track where you're barely even looking up. Like, you're not even looking around. You're just running down the, like, glowing path, and that's it. So, like, you might happen to stop and go, oh, wow, this is a nice area. And then you just continue to run. And then you're like, oh, back to the blood area. Okay, great. Thank you.
Do you have anything else to say about the graphics and atmosphere?
I will say that, like, they really tried very hard to design the demons, like, uniquely and stuff. And I can see what they were going for. And as much as, like, I want to... It's tough because they did a good job in making the demons look unsettling.
This is pretty clearly the best part of the game, right? Like, this would probably be the one that gets the highest
Exactly.
ranking.
Like, the demons look unsettling, which you want demons to look. They're literally demons in hell. Like, you want them to look supernatural and very uncomfortable and very awkward and upsetting and all these things. One design choice that I really thought was odd, and I don't know if they just couldn't, like, figure out a way to do it, like I don't, like, clearly this game is rated M. Like, you know, it's very mature game. Like, it's all whatever. But all of the female characters are obviously topless and, like, sometimes completely naked depending on, like, what their bottom half looks like. Most of them are half goat or half, like, some other beast or something. But, and so they're very clearly anatomically correct. They, you know, they're all very, like, you can tell these are all naked people, whatever. The one thing that's weird is the male demons, instead of giving them, like, genitalia, they have this, like, weird appendage that's coming out of the middle of their stomach. So I guess it's their, like, intestines or something. But it's so close to the, like, crotch area that it's almost like they wanted to do, like, genitalia but then didn't, or, like, backed out or chickened out or something. So it makes the male demons look weird that you're like, why not just go all in? Do you know what I mean? Like, if you've ever seen the movie This Is the End, it's like a parody movie with, like, Seth Rogen and Jonah Hill and stuff, and it's about demons and stuff, and all the demons are just, like, massive 20-foot story, like, demons, and they all have, like, massive, like, genitalia, and it makes it very shocking and, like, oh god, it's terrifying, because it's like what you would imagine. Like, hell is a scary place that is supposed to be all this scariness, and it was very much like something happened where they just didn't want to go that route, and I, you know, that was a little weird, but they did try. I could tell they tried very hard to make the demons unsettling and weird. There's some demons that are, like, There's one demon that's like just this ball of hands, and it like kind of rolls around, very unsettling, and it just kind of follows you. And there's like spiders made out of arms, and there's like things made out of like tentacly hair. Very upsetting and unsettling. And so they did a good job designing a lot of those, though I don't understand why they like chickened out on being like as graphic as they could have been.
Yeah, because like
they obviously were graphic in most other ways. So like why chicken out at the last minute?
Yeah, anyone playing this game for more than 5 minutes is going to be like not bothered by any of this.
Right.
Like you could pick it up and be like, "Oh, this isn't what I thought," and you would stop in like 5 minutes and be like, "Wow, this is like, you know, pretty graphic." But yeah. So for my view on the graphics atmosphere, I'm going to split this up and then divide it by 2. I'm going to give the general atmosphere and how they present the suffering and how they make the demons and the stuff look a 6. But then I'm going to give the actual graphics a 0 because it's not usually 0 is reserved for unbelievably glitchy where it's whatever.
Yeah.
But this one for me it's a 0 because it makes things almost unplayable to the point where like you can't tell where you came from, what is what. So 6,
like honestly, if that like thing of like you said making a game unplayable, if that like hint button that you could continually click, if that wasn't in there, you never would have finished it. I never would have finished it.
I probably just would have had to watch a YouTube video and follow it every step. I will say at some points I had to pull up a YouTube thing, but it wasn't like much. It wasn't like every second.
But it's just like, where am I? I don't even know what, like it's one of those things where like if you ever put the controller down and get up to like go to the bathroom and come back, you might be like, which way was I walking? Like, it's just like, I don't know what I'm looking at. Like, it's so weird.
It's hard to explain. Like I said, there's a nuance to it where, like, certain games, and a lot of times it's first-person shooters, I find, or first-person games where you'll just get a little, like, mixed up of where you are.
Right. I mean, that's the biggest hit. That was why Daikatana, like, had that, I mean, it was this whole thing, John Romero's next game, everybody was hyping it up. And it came out, and everything is brown.
I mean, there's an example. Doom. Everything is hellfire and whatever, but they make it.
They know how to level design.
Interesting in level design.
Yep,
yeah,
absolutely. And there's just enough different stuff to make it interesting.
This reminds me of a weird way. Trevor has tried to play Dino Crisis 3.
Oh yeah.
Which takes place on a spaceship. But the thing is, and I wanted so badly to be like, please let's play through this. Please let's play through this. But everything just looks the same. It's just like It's just a spaceship. Every single thing is like a spaceship. Then you're in another alleyway and it's another spaceship. And it's just like, even Dino Crisis 1, which is a good game, everything is like, it's a facility.
Yes.
Like, it's like if you went to like a hospital and, they designed like Last of Us, but they made a hospital like a normal hospital. It's like, well, everything looks the same.
Right.
Yeah, it's a hospital.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
everything is just white walls.
If they didn't board off some stuff or break some stuff out, it would just be like, well, it's a hospital simulator.
Exactly.
And that's generally what this, like I said, does, is just everything is the same. So 6 plus 0 divided by 2 is 3. My score is a 3 for this one.
I'm going to give this a 2.5. I would have given it a 3 with you, except that I really, really was disappointed that they went pretty far. Like, if you're gonna go all in on a game set in hell, like, please go all in and make everything like as upsetting as possible, because it's literally supposed to be hell. But like, don't like half-ass it. Like, do it and do it like to the best of your ability. And it seemed like they wanted to, but for some reason just held back a little bit. And like, that is just.
And I don't even know if it would be an ESRB thing.
I can't imagine. I mean, it was already M. I feel like been a 17 rated. Like, it's not like it would have changed the thing, or what's the adults only. Like, it wouldn't have changed the sales if it was adults only.
Well, the thing is, people like companies are like, adults only for games is like a death.
Yeah,
is like a death. Like,
true. Distributors won't even carry it.
I can't even. I can't even. Besides Thrill Kill, which never came out, I can't even tell you any AO games.
BMX, Triple X.
That was mature.
That was mature.
That was mature. Yeah.
The Guy game.
Mature. Well, that was mature until they like banned it or whatever.
Yeah.
But that was for a separate thing.
Yeah.
I want to say that in other games there's been realistic like of both kinds of like genitalia. I want to say that.
Oh, absolutely. I've definitely seen like naked men in a video game. Absolutely. Like,
yeah,
Witcher,
and I feel like
Witcher does it like all these other games
because it's not like a specifically a human. I feel like I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I agree.
Maybe it's one of those things where ESRB was like, you add one more thing to this thing, and we're making it AO. It could be.
That could very well.
I will say that, and like I said, just people do not want to release anything at AO because I feel like definitely like your Walmarts and your Best Buys and whatever would definitely not carry it at that point, just like they wouldn't carry like X-rated stuff. So, all right. Next up, we have sound. I gotta be honest, I don't remember much from this. Was the voice acting decent in this one?
The voice acting was.
I remember the nuance.
Great.
The nuance of the sounds was like okay, like it wasn't.
Yeah, I mean everything's. I mean again, just like the demon stuff, like you kind of want it to be unsettling. Like the sounds of hell, you want to be bad. Like people screaming in agony, like the sounds of bones crunching and people being smashed and whatever. Like so, even if they do the sound perfect, you're not supposed to be like, "Yay, this sounds awesome." It's supposed to be upsetting. But they really, really phoned in the voice acting. The like red goddess who you talk to the most is really, really like just annoying, and her like minions or whatever kind of talk to you, and it's all just like very like I don't know, like it's very budget. I get that,
okay.
But at the same time, it's like, man, like you already have so many other things you're like, kind of like low on. Like you shouldn't really be low on this too. And like obviously, I don't even if there's music, I have no idea. It's not memorable in any way.
I mean, it's one of those things where I could even forgive this game if it had a really good like presentation. And I'm not really a graphics guy. Like I don't care about UHD ultra graphics.
Right.
Like if it just had where everything looked slightly different, and the story was just a little bit more, and then the sound could even be at that level, and I'd be like, that's fine. I'm like enjoying this, but. Because I don't remember a single thing about this, I'm going to give it the same ranking as story, which is 2. I feel like it's not laughably bad, but and I'll give it 2 because it has like the sounds of like the pain and the suffering and the stuff like that. So at least it has that going for it.
They did that atmosphere part okay. So yeah, I'm right there with you. I'll give it a 2.5 because they did do a good job making like it sound miserable and scary and whatever. And all the things kind of have that like whatever. And when you're playing as some of the bigger demons and you like attack people, like it is like kind of a satisfying like sound of like crunching up a body or something. Like it's kind of like, oh, that's so gross, like kind of thing. So like that part was fine. There's a lot of like like that kind of gross explosion of blood and gore or whatever. So, yeah, I'll give it a little bit more, bump it up a tiny bit for that, but yeah.
I think we might be giving some goose eggs out at this point.
From this point on.
We have Fun Factor, which I really can't think of anything fun about this game.
Nope.
Like, I don't want to be like, use like a big hyperbole or anything like that, but I really cannot think of anything fun about this game. Like, there was like no points where I was like, oh, cool, I got past this. Oh, what's this next part? I would always just be like...
The first time I got to embody a demon, I thought, okay, now this game's going to get good. Because now I'm going to be able to control something that is powerful. And right away I was like, this controls like a bus. And I don't even... It's not even like when you control a demon, it's like, kill a bunch of things. And you're like, sweet. It's like, make a precise jump or something. And you're like, no! Why are you giving me a bigger thing to try to do a platform? It was just awful.
So yeah, everything about this is very just tedious. You would you get to a new room and you would see 2 demons lurking there, and you'd be like, oh, I gotta hide again, and it would just be like, whatever.
I mean, towards the end when I was just following the marker, if I walked into a room and there were demons, I just ran as fast as I could and followed the marker, and I would hear them like start chasing me, and I'd be like, well, I hope I get to the next checkpoint before they get me, and that was all I did.
Yeah, and that's not how you want to play a game. It's just checkpoint to checkpoint. Like, I understand some areas if it's particularly hard, but this would be like, oh god, did I get to a checkpoint? Oh, thank god. So I'm struggling between a 0 and a 1. I don't give out zeros lightly, obviously, and I don't know if I ever have, to be honest with you. I want to say 1 because the game didn't crash on me, but I also want to say 0 because the game didn't crash on me and I was forced to finish it. And like,
I will say that
it's short.
Right.
It's short enough that like it's not like it's like, imagine if they give us to you and it's like 20 hours long.
Right.
It's just like it just keeps, and it's like,
my
Peon,
gosh.
that was only the first area of hell. You'd be like, what? We would just quit.
There's 9 levels of hell.
Like, imagine if, like, I don't know, 3-4 hours, and I don't know how long this game is, because it's just
not very long.
It's just a trial of just doing things over and over and over.
Yeah, it's basically the only
So you don't know how long it is because you keep retrying stuff over and over again. But imagine if the game, even half the game was like, you did like 3 hours and it was like, entering the second layer, you'd be like, I quit.
Yeah. No thanks.
You get down to 9, it's like, you gotta get out now.
Yeah.
That's the thing. That's the thing, by the way. I hate in games where you do like a deep labyrinth or a big maze or whatever, and you get the thing, and it's not like you don't have like, say, an escape rope in Pokemon or something that can just get out. It's like, all right, get out, and it's just like, dude, what?
And then it's like timed, and you're like, no.
Not even timed. It's just like I did this thing. Like, come on, man.
Now you just gotta see all the same settings again.
Something I played recently. Oh, FF7 Remake did that well. You would do like, you would go to someone in whatever main Midgar, and they'd be like, do this thing. And then you would go and do the thing, and when you're done, it's like, thing done. Go visit this person again, and it would just automatically warp you to them. And I'm like, that's so nice.
That's so
because like, even if it wasn't far, it's still like, I don't have to think about where I'm going.
Yeah. Just to turn in a quest. Yeah.
I think that there are worse games out there, and it's gonna be hard. But I think at some point we're gonna see a game that's worse, that like I can't even finish. So I'm going to give this a 1.5. Okay. Because I really...
Wow. You were going between a 1 and a 0,
I'm going to give it
now you're bumping it up.
I'm going to give it... I guess fun factor has nothing to do with me liking the atmosphere and the general stuff.
Yeah, we already went over.
I'm going to give it a 1.25. I'm going to give it a 1.25. Right, simply because I finished it. And I should reserve anything less than a 1 for something I did not finish. I feel like not just like if like I played something and got the general feel, but was like, this game's 80 hours long and we did a review, I'd be like, it was good, but I'm not gonna finish it. Like something that's like only this long, but I can't even finish it.
Right.
I feel like I should reserve like a 0 or a 0.5. So I'm gonna give it a 1.25 because I did finish the game. I didn't have any fun doing it, but it has to get a point.
I didn't have any fun.
It has to get a point because I did finish it.
Okay, fair enough. I am gonna give it a 0 because it was very close to me not finishing it, and the only reason I finished it was because Spencer kept needling me because he had finished it, and he was like, come on, I want to do a bit podcast so we can just get it over with, and finally I finished it. And if Spencer wasn't asking me to finich it, I absolutely would never have finished it. So that is why I have to just give it a 0, because like without the drive of having to record a podcast, there's never in a million years would I have finished this game.
I guess I have that like drive in me to sometimes finish bad games. Like,
right,
it's not
just
always.
So that you can talk about them and have done it.
It's just sometimes.
Yeah.
And I will say, let me compare before we go to replayability. Let me just say that Agony compared to Resident Evil 6, which I feel like this is going to be a worse score for both of us than Resident Evil 6. Agony is a much worse game than Resident Evil 6.
Yes.
I feel like if Resident Evil 6 was just called Generic Action Game 6, maybe it wouldn't get quite as bad scores from us, but at the same time, I never ever would have played it. Yeah. Because the only reason I played it is because it's a Resident Evil game, and I was like, let's play it.
Yep.
And the only reason I had any fun with that was I got to play it with Parker, and we got to just laugh at how silly it was. Yes. I can't imagine playing that single player and then being like, oh god, there's 3 more quests, you know? But On the echelon of bad games, Resident Evil 6 is like colossally bad for many, many reasons, but Agony is definitely worse.
Yes.
And there's this whole diagram you could look at as to, you know, why. Like Resident Evil 6, much bigger budget, so you do have to give it like less, like a harder kick because of that. Agony has less of a budget, but at the same point, like, you know, it's not like games have been made by one person.
Absolutely.
And they've been good.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? So even if this
most games on the Nintendo, look at those credits. There's like a couple names.
Even if this game was made by 10 people,
yep.
It's just not. And I understand there's a lot that goes behind it. Like maybe the company that was making it was like going under, and they're like, we gotta put this out, whatever, right? But like anything that's like, if you can have a game that's made by one person and have it be pretty good, anything else deserves to at least be like somewhat playable, and this isn't. So replayability, this might be my first goose egg, I'm not sure, but I'm definitely giving this a 0 because I could never ever for any situation it would cause me physical pain. We talked to, like, I believe it or not, I don't know what I gave Resident Evil 6, but I have thought in the past 6 months of like, I kind of want to replay that. Like, just because it was so fun in a bad way, and so silly and whatever. And like, I hope I give it like a 1 or a 2 or whatever, because like, it would cause me pain to play it single player, but because it has multiplayer, I could play it with Parker or even someone else that's like play. But I would have to play with the right person, not someone that's like, I wouldn't like, I don't know if you're listening, Alex. Alex Swingle likes Resident Evil 6. I don't know why you'd be listening this late and on this, but like, he likes that game, and I couldn't play that with him because he'd be
someone who likes
he'd be like, let's go, let's do this. I'd be like, nah, I gotta play this with someone who's just like, let's get this done. You know what I mean? Like, you could. It's just the right situation.
Absolutely.
But Agony, to replay it would be like, there would be no situation. Like, if someone was like, tell me about the game, I'd be like, listen to the podcast, or I'd be like, go watch a video on YouTube. Like, they'd be like, but just show it to me. I'd be like, no. Like, I wouldn't even show them the first, like, I wouldn't even install it. It wouldn't be worth installing to the system. So, like, literally physical pain to do it. I would, like, I would potentially do it for...
like a charity stream.
I would do it for. I was gonna say for money. I would do it for a charity stream. So if like someone was like, "I'll donate $1,000 to CIB's charity if you play this on stream and beat it," I'd be like, "Okay,
fine.
Great, that's fine." But like for myself, for enjoyment, and like at that point, it's like work. If you're doing something for money, it's like work. So for myself, for enjoyment, I don't have enough time in this lifetime to be like, you know, and it's not even the kind of bad that you're like, you know, I want to see that again. It was just so bad. It's just bad. It's not even laughably bad. It's not even fun bad. It's just bad.
That is one of the worst parts. Is that it's not fun bad.
It's everything bad for me because it's not fun bad. It's just bad, and it's the kind of bad that you're like, I can see the promise in this burnt rice.
Even worse.
I see that if you took this off 2 minutes earlier, it wouldn't be burnt. I can see it. I can see something that heck, like even
what you were going for.
Yeah, if like someone took the general idea and did it again, it could be good. It's not so bad where it's like, well, even at the molecular level, this is bad. So that's the worst thing about this for me. So yes, 0. I give it a hard and fat 0.
I'm right there with you. There's like, I considered giving this like a 0.5 or a 0.75 just because I was trying to imagine a scenario where somebody was like, we gotta play that game or something, and I was like, okay, let's play through it. And honestly, I would just tell them, dude, watch a video. Like, you don't even have to listen to this podcast. Just watch a Let's Play, somebody going through it or something. Like, do not subject yourself to it. I would just strongly advise
in today's day and age, just watch a YouTuber that's like happened to go through it. Like, just whether you want to watch a speed run or a Let's Play or whatever, it's like it's not worth the
no payoff. There's no payoff. There's no like satisfaction to like, well, you got through this awful thing and at least you got to this funny cutscene, even if it was like a dumb funny cutscene or something like that. But no, it's just bad.
Or it has like one part you can remember as being very good.
Yeah,
like
even in one moment.
In a flawed game like Call of Cthulhu, there's plenty of moments for PS4 where I'm like, oh, this game wasn't really good and the ending really got me down, but like, there's some pretty cool parts in it.
Yeah, there was some amazing parts in it, and I remember us reviewing that. But this is just nothing.
So overall total, this is officially the worst game we reviewed, which is, I kind of expected it, and it's fair. Resident Evil 6 deserves to be number 2 because at least there's a little bit of enjoyment in it. So I came up with a 1.625, and then Parker had a 1.33, helped by 2 golden goose eggs. So it's going to be hard to top this. It's going to have to be a game
it's gonna be hard to bottom this.
To bottom this. It's going to be a game where we go to play it and we're like, either
it doesn't work.
It crashed my PS4 every time I played it.
It destroyed all of my save files.
I feel like. Let me put it this way.
It bricked my PS4.
Let me put it this way to end things. I find it very hard to believe for any games made, I want to say PS2 or later, because there's some PS1 games. Like I feel Bubsy 3D might be like this level. Like okay, it's like unfair because it's an older game, but Pit Fighter I would probably give a 0 the whole way through because it's just. It's the worst game ever made, right? But 100%. For anything PS2 or later, which is generally the era where games started becoming like more modern and like storytelling and whatever, I would find it, and let me put it this way, not a really quick... No, because even quick Wii game cash grabs would be like, have like a little like silliness to them. Like you could play like a Mary-Kate and Ashley game and be like, what am I doing? This is so silly. But you're not like... You would just play it for 20 minutes and be like, why did I do that, right? But at least it's not, like, causing you pain. Right. I find it hard to believe that since the year 2000, that there is a worse game printed to disc. There are worse games out there that would be, like Steam exclusives. Like, there's some infamous games out there that, like, companies put out as just cash grabs and they, like, barely work and whatever. That's a different thing. But this is a game that was put to disc, which means at some point... that publisher had to be like, we are publishing this game as a disc, and they go to Sony, and they go to Microsoft, and they'd be like, we're doing this, here's your cut, whatever. It's worth the time for us to print this to disc. I find it hard to believe that there's a game that would be less enjoyable. Again, I don't want you coming at me and being like, Mary-Kate and Ashley Sweet 16 on GameCube. It's like, dude, that game's made for little girls.
Exactly.
Sorry. You know what I mean? Or like... Eminem's Kart Racer. It's like, I guarantee I could play 3-4 races in Eminem's Kart Racer or any dumb kart racing game and just be like,
as much as you hate kart racers, if you played through a map with your friend and you were like trying to win and you won, you would have an enjoyable experience.
Even if you do 2 races and you're like, wow, this is a really bad kart racer, it wouldn't be as bad as this.
Right.
Because it's just hard to believe. That there's a game out there, and we probably will. It'll probably come to a point where we do like a PC game, and I'm like, I found out about this PC game, I gotta play it, whatever, or like a PS4 digital download, because those are stuff that like I remember I got a game called like Amy for the PS3, which was literally free before free games were a thing, before like PS Plus games were a thing, and it's like truly terrible in terms of like just broken and just awful and unplayable. So like in terms of games that got to disc, I mean, if you're still listening, anyone out there, put them below. Let us know.
We would love to hear them because I'll try a game just to see what could be a worse metric. Like, definitely suggest some games.
But many games fall into the category of it's so bad that it's quote unquote good or enjoyable or silly or like Captain Novelin on the SNES. You play as the superhero who fights diabetes, and it's like, okay, well already it's better because it's silly. You know what I mean? Like already, 100% better. So and for a game that takes itself so seriously, of course it would. And a game that has no like fun value at all, you really gotta get it right, and it got 100%. It so wrong. So I think that's 100%. It. Do you have anything else to add to this? Then
absolutely.
Agony is agony.
Agony is agony.
It is the worst game that we've played. I'm so glad we went on this for an hour because I feel like I have so much more fun talking about like very bad games than like very good games, because there's plenty of very good games out there. There's not as many like very bad games.
And you'll notice that Spencer and I rarely review games that are just excellent, or that are just like Spider-Man. We're never going to review that because we're just going to be like, it's great.
9.5, 9.5, 10, 10, 10.
It's just
it would,
so I mean, it just doesn't make sense to do that. Like, you'd want to review something that's like maybe people didn't play, or maybe people don't know about it.
It would have to be excellent, but people didn't know about it, like you said.
Exactly.
Or something like, if you've never played Super Mario RPG, and then you're like, I'm going to play this, and it's like, all right, let's talk about this, And
absolutely.
then I might give it 10s down the board or whatever.
Right.
But, like, normally it's more fun to talk about games that are surprising for different reasons or terrible for all the reasons.
Right,
so
for sure.
That's it. Agony is agony. Do not play it. Just don't play it. There's no reason to. Go watch someone on YouTube. Don't. Okay. Bye. See you next time. Thank you for listening.
Later.